Hey everybody, it's Marie Haynes here, and to those of you who are watching this live, I wanted to say happy Thanksgiving. We're in Canada, so today is happy very few email interruptions day for us. What we're going to talk about today, again, is a little update on my newsletter, and I'll tell you what Google has done in the last couple of weeks, and if you're in the search community, this is the type of thing that, that you need to know about. So first thing is the latest algorithm updates. There really haven't been that many major updates in the last couple of weeks, and that's not that uncommon for this time of year. In the past, Matt Cutts from Google has said that Google tries to minimize the number of major updates that they do around the holidays. With that said, they have done some major updates in November in the past. It seems like November 15th was a day that was a fairly large update. All of the Algo checkers like Mozcast and Algo have shown that there was a lot of movement on that day. My own clients, I haven't seen very much change in their rankings on November 15th, but I know that Search Engine Roundtable has a good post of a number of people who saw significant changes at that time. It's probably the same as usual, that it's a quality update, and so if you were affected, I would be looking at overall site quality as a reason why you might have seen a traffic drop, or maybe you saw an increase in that. If you did see an increase, I'd love for you to tell me about it, because I always like to see what types of things are working. Something that, so I was recently at PubCon. The last episode that I filmed was from Vegas in PubCon, and a lot of what's in the newsletter this week is talking about things that I learned at PubCon. So one of the things that we learned this week is Google's going to be making some changes, some significant changes to AMP. If you're using AMP pages, this is something you need to pay attention to. A tactic that a lot of people have been using is they'll have an AMP page that's just a very slimmed down version of the actual content page, and you'll see a button that says read more, and when people click on the read more button, they get sent to the mobile version that's not necessarily AMP. And that is something that Google is saying you can't do anymore. It's not going to take effect until the new year, I believe, but what Google's going to say is if you have an AMP page that is different than the actual mobile version in terms of content, then they won't allow you into the AMP carousels anymore. And so that's really something to pay attention to. Because a lot of people were doing these double pages so that they could get double the ad revenue, and unfortunately that trick is not pardon me, not going to happen anymore. Google's made some big changes to knowledge panels. If you are in the shopping industry at all, or an e-commerce site, then Google is now taking up way more real estate, and so you've probably noticed this in the SERPs, and it means that if you're ranking organically for shopping terms, that people are going to have to scroll down an insane amount to find your things. There's not much we can do about this other than perhaps to try to get into Google Shopping, but if you are ranking organically for e-commerce, that's not a good thing for you. This is important. Firefox has switched back to Google as their main search provider. So for a couple of years, Firefox was using Yahoo. I'm not sure why, but Yahoo as their main search provider. And now, for some sites, that was a good thing. If you had some sort of an algorithmic demotion in Google, it's possible that you might be ranking well on Yahoo. This means that this change would result in less traffic for you. Conversely, though, if you do better on Google than you do on Yahoo for rankings, then you might be seeing an increase in the amount of traffic that you're getting, because a lot of people do use Firefox as their main browser. Another thing to know is that for SEOs who use Google's info command, that's not working anymore. In the paid version of my newsletter, we talk about a really simple trick to very quickly see the cache of a website. Most of you probably already know that. And something that I thought was interesting that most people know, again, is that John Mueller from Google reiterated that Google does not use your Google Analytics data. A lot of people think that Google's using that data to see who's dwelling on your site or who's bouncing off of your site. Now, Google does still see that information. I believe that they can see it through people using Chrome and using Android phones. And they have said in the past that they actually use that type of user engagement metrics in order to see if their algorithms are working. And so, you know, they'll rank a site more highly, and then they'll use user engagement metrics to say, are people actually enjoying seeing that site? And so I don't specifically recommend that you work on you know, a particular bounce rate or a particular dwell time, but anything that you can do to improve the amount of time that people want to spend on your website is a really good thing. Let's see what else we can talk about. I found it very interesting that Barry Schwartz had a poll on Search Engine Roundtable saying, are you going to continue to do SEO through 2018? And I was amazed to see that over 60% of the people are either getting out of SEO or doing much less of it in 2018. And to me, that's exciting for the people who actually are doing good SEO and are actually able to be effective in what they do. And I think that I really feel like we're in a new age of SEO. I mean, technically in the past, SEO should have always been about trying to make the best website that you can in order for Google to like it and for users to like it. But really in the past, a lot of being successful in SEO was all about knowing the tricks, knowing what kind of links to buy or what kind of links to make on your own, knowing how you could tweak your content just to make Google consider it better. And it's getting more and more where the sites that are succeeding are the sites that are technically sound and the sites that do a fantastic job at showing people, look, this is the website that you want to use. I know there's hundreds of comparisons out there, but you want to use our website, and here's why. And if you are learning how to do that and you're successful at making websites much more user-friendly, then you're going to find that you're going to be very successful in SEO. Another thing that we talk about in the newsletter, again, in terms of AMP, it was interesting at PubCon, Gary Ish was saying that AMP is here to stay. And Gary had a funny thing. He said, Google doesn't have a good track record of sticking with things. I mean, if we look at, we all implemented authorship and then Google said, you don't need it, you know, we can get rid of it. But he said AMP is different because now Bing is announcing that they have, they're going to be accepting AMP pages as well. And Gary had a good point that in some countries, when people see that a page is AMP, they are recognizing that it's loading lightning fast. And in some countries where the mobile infrastructure is not so good, this is a huge thing. And so I have not been a big proponent of AMP. You'll see in my newsletter that I actually implemented it on one of my sites last year, and I saw a massive drop in ad revenue. I need to write a case study on this. I'm actually going to re-implement it now and test a few things. And so I'll publish about that in the newsletter. But if you're on the fence about whether or not to put the investment into AMP, I would say to go ahead and do it. It's I mean, it doesn't work for every industry, but it is something that it's not going to disappear in the next few years. There's a bit in the newsletter about Google local services, which used to be called home service ads, and now it's expanding to Houston, Orlando, Las Vegas, Baltimore, Denver, San Antonio, and Charlotte as well. And so if you are a local service business, that's something that you might want to look into because it looks like it's something that's going to be quite popular. Let's see, the rest of my newsletter. So in the paid version, we have tons of tips. There's some tips on link building as well, which I think that you'll really like. And I haven't made the official announcement yet, but I do have a new book that is just coming out on the Quality Raters guidelines and how we use those guidelines to help websites perform better. And we've had some really good success. And so we've put together a checklist that we've been using internally for a number of months now. And I'm offering that to people so that you can use it for your own website or for your clients. So if you are not yet a paid member of my newsletter, you can go to mariehaynes.com/newsletter. And when you sign up to be a paid member, you'll actually get a copy of this book. If you want to buy the book, you can do that too. And if you are a paid member, then we'll give you a copy as well. It's something that really should be helpful. So again, for those of you watching live, I want to say happy Thanksgiving to all my American friends. And I look forward to keeping you updated over the holiday season with all the things that Google's doing. Thanks.